Well, I think this might be the first time I've actually had an E28 on this lift. And what an example. It's just, I guess, a plain US spec 535 IS manual. But today it's in for just a couple little things. One being a window regulator. Not exactly sure which one yet. I was told that one of the two fronts is bad, so I have both fronts. It's also in for rear shocks, which are in these bad boys. Boom. Hopefully there's a perch in there somewhere, otherwise that's a little scary. But yeah, those are the two things I'm going to be doing today. These two boxes here that's a water pump for an M30, that's a full top-end gasket set. This customer also has a Dynan E34 535 that I may be working on in the future if I have time. That's for that. This is a used clutch I put, let's see, what's that out of? That's out of that nuclear overheated 323 video. Should probably throw that away, but I think the clutch looked okay. Anyway, I digress. What I'm going to do first, obviously I've taken the wheels off. That's it so far. On these shocks, there's just a single bolt on the backside. It's probably a 19 millimeter on this particular vehicle. Unfortunately, the top mounts are behind the back seat under the parcel shelf. So I'm going to have to pull up on the seat bottom in the front first, pull this out. Then there's going to be a couple of fasteners along the bottom side of the seat back. Once those are out, I can lift the entire seat back upward. And it comes off some clips at the top. Then I can deal with the bolts for the seatbelt anchors. I could take out the speaker wiring, take out the third brake light, remove the parcel shelf, and I should have access to the 13 mils on the top. And then once I get the uprights out, I can compress the springs, get the old shocks out, and then the rest, as they say, is history. Put it all back on the new shocks, and keep rolling. So first order of business is going to be pulling that rear seat out. Well, I did a quick check in the trunk first, and disregard. You do not need to pull the back seat for this. The access is just right there. It's three, very hard to get to, 13 millimeters. On this side, boy, I don't know, some sort of vapor tank, looks like. 10 mil on the bottom I see. Hopefully that's all there is to it, and I can move that out of the way. And go ahead and pull this side carpeting out a little bit, just to get a little bit better view of everything. Excellent. There's a lot of hoses on that thing, but I should be able to get access to everything I need from here. Well, it turns out these lowers are not 19s at all. They are 22s. Gotta love that. Car's in good condition. All I'm gonna do now is grab my hammer, lightly tap that out. If it gives me any resistance, I may have to heat it up and use a pry bar, but this car seems pretty clean, so I'm not really too worried about that happening. So there we have our old assemblies. Gonna reuse the top mounts and the H&R lowering springs. Here's the new assembled shock assembly. Now on these, you don't just assemble them and go. Typically what you do is like that pushes down way too easy the first time. So I compress them once by hand upside down, and then I get something to protect my hand, and I'll proceed to cycle it 5 times all the way down and let it rebound. You'll notice that the first time you push it, there's almost no resistance, and as you keep going, it gets, whoa, maybe I'll only do this one 3 times. This feels really good already, so I'll go 3 times. These aren't gas shocks, they're oil shocks as I understand them, so these aren't ready to just plug and play and go. You have to cycle them first, otherwise you will not have good shock performance from the get-go. I've had a couple of times in the past, not on cars I've worked on, but where people have come in with brand new shocks and like the car is super bouncy. It's like, well, these are oil shocks, who did them? and I'll go back, and the shop will have had no idea basically that that was even a thing. So got some new Bilstein Tourings 2017. I really like these shocks. Bilstein Sports or HDs, whatever those are, also a really good shock. Potentially better to pair with a lowering spring like that, but these are actually heavier duty. They'll last a little longer from my experience. So Bilstein's an awesome shock. I've seen a lot of these last well into the 200,000 mile range, which is just insane. So again, has my personal preference here. The owner of the car just sort of said use your judgment, so that's what I went with. Right now I'm gonna do this the kind of getaway. I'm gonna put my impact on the top of those. That little nut right there, I'm gonna pop them off. The whole assembly is gonna shoot that way. Fiat, who cares? Then I'm gonna get my spring compressor, compress that coil, hopefully. Get the perches all set up on here, give this a good little tap, make sure it's set. Get the spring on there, get the top mount on, and then reassemble. And then I'll move on to that window regulator once I find out which one is bad. So there we have the old and the new shock. And since this is a lowering spring and the touring shock's actually a little bit longer in overall length, I'm not even positive I'm going to need a spring compressor to put these together. But the order goes perch, lower spring pad, coil spring. Don't forget to put your old bump stop on. If that's in bad condition, just replace it. These parts are not terribly expensive. There we go. I'll try to do this all on camera. I'm not sure the quality of the video, however awesome, may suffer slightly. So make sure your spring aligns with your spring pad lower. And then yeah, in this case, I'm gonna thread the nut back on here. And I'm probably gonna be able to just torque that right back on. Woo! All right, maybe not. So I guess I'll grab, it's probably an 8 or a 9 mil wrench and then a 17 mil speed wrench, and I'm gonna zip that down manually and then throw this whole assembly back in. Luckily, the bottom of these shocks is doweled, so you can just set that right into your trailing arm right there while you fish these up into the top holes. These are original top mounts and everything, but it all actually feels pretty good, so I'm not too worried about it. That's right, I was gonna feel these shocks. Oh yeah, those are pretty spent. When you let a car sit for a long time, these shocks can go bad too. I'm not sure what the history is on this car, but that should be way stiffer than the Touring, and it's not. So even though these look perfectly fine on the outside, they are well and truly done. So like I said, I'm going to tighten that down, throw this assembly in, and then do the same thing with that side. And then we'll pretty much be done with the rear shocks at that point, once I get the upper 13s tightened back down. Also, make sure your little washer is upside down here, and your big washer is right side up in there before you tighten it down. Well, the shocks are done, the window is fixed. Ready to back this bad boy out of here. This thing's super loud. It's a straight pipe after the cat. Nice car. I would like to own this thing. Apparently the parking brake is no good. But it sure is snazzy looking. Lowered with those Alpina wheels. Pretty sweet.